All right. I'm trying to make this painless. It's not root canal. It's okay. Welcome, everyone, to the December 2023 edition of The Impact, a Sustainable CT podcast. For your edification, your enlightenment, and your entertainment, too. I'm Jim Hunt, Communications Manager at Sustainable CT, so if you're looking for someone to blame for this podcast, well, you can blame me. But remember, this is never a one-way conversation. We always want to hear from you for our edification and enlightenment. Drop us a note, won't you? To info@sustainablecT.org. The Impact is brought to you in part by the Common Sense Fund. The Common Sense Fund supports environmental change through education, policy initiatives, promotion of carbon-free energy sources, and stewardship of our natural resources. The fund promotes action both on the environment and in the arts that is practical, creative, and addresses social needs, and we are so glad they do. Visit them at commonsensefund.org. Remember, Sustainable CT is independently funded. We don't have a magical rainbow unicorn money tree, no sir, but you can be a Sustainable CT sponsor. Find out how at sustainablecT.org. We have the good fortune to be joined today by Ted Shafer, currently serving as the Director of Economic Development for the beautiful town of Winchester, a recently bronze certified town, by the way. It's nice. Yes. Ted did his undergraduate studies at Tulane.
Yes.
Way down yonder in the Big Easy. Go Pelican, where he received a BS in business management. He went on to earn an MBA from Alliant International out on the left coast and an MPA and a master's in public administration from UConn Go Huskies.
Yes.
He served for 10 years as the first selectman of the town of Burlington from 2011 to 2021, overseeing much of Burlington's evolution into a climate and sustainably conscious municipality and guiding the town to bronze certification in 2019. Very good. In addition, Ted has been involved with Sustainable CT from the very beginning, helping us to organize and to launch back in the dear dark days of our founding, 2017. He's been a member of the Sustainable CT Board of Directors and has served as treasurer of that august body. And we are certainly thankful for that. But more than that, Ted shows up. We can always count on his good counsel, his positive energy, and his willingness to attend, to participate, to support. And that is a rare and wonderful thing. So with all that said, welcome to the show, Mr. Shafer.
Great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Just as an additional tidbit of information, I'm also the Economic Development Director currently for Barkhamsted, Connecticut.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I should have mentioned that. But you're going to have to explain to us how that works, that you can have two masters.
Happy to explain that.
You got two masters. That's pretty cool.
I do. Fine masters. And I can definitely talk about that. But they are currently in the process of trying to obtain their bronze level certification.
Yay.
They are doing fantastic and looking to the beginning of April to make their final submission. So great. Very proud of them. Great group of people there. Just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, plug that. Well, it fits into my first question. I wanted to ask you how did you get involved with municipal government to begin with? I mean, how did you end up doing what you're doing?
Well, I think when I was younger, there were good examples and models in my immediate family. I came from a large family, born and raised in West Hartford. And between my brothers and sisters, 5 of us total, and my mom and dad, the household always seemed to be involved with the community and bettering the community. So I think that's where I gained my interest in good examples. And when I moved to Burlington, Connecticut, as an adult and ready to raise my family, I contacted Town Hall and I asked if there was any volunteer positions open for residents on local committees or boards. And I was graciously placed onto the Economic Development Commission.
Look at that. Yeah.
And who knew all these years later, I'd be so involved in it currently. But through that, you get to meet your neighbors, other residents,
sure,
other organizations. And I continued to do that on a volunteer basis as I was doing what I was doing professionally. Did that for about five or 6 years, doing that eventually becoming chairman of that committee, working on a lot of projects and interacting with others. And then eventually I thought I'd put my name in the hat for the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate on my first run. I was able to be a member of that board as a volunteer resident. I served on them for 4 terms.
I was going to say that's a
learned a lot about the town.
You served a long time in an elected position. That's not easy to do.
Yep. So I did that, and then there was a situation where there was an opening, and I pursued that. Eventually, became the first selectman of Burlington, which I did not set out to be, but honored to serve. I had to leave my professional position as a risk management consultant and became the first selectman, elected first selectman for 10 years. So that's how I kind of got into the municipal government area.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed a bunch of city managers, and that's a whole different gig because you're not elected. You're kind of separated, at least a little bit in theory, from the political mayhem. And they'll have Elsesser, these guys, they hung out a long time in those jobs. But to find somebody who stays in local elected government for that extended period of time is kind of unique. It doesn't happen a lot. So bravo to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciated the support of I serve the public. Elections are an opportunity for them to take a close look at the work you're doing. And, I felt very fortunate they were favorable to the results and how their quality of lives were progressing. And, so I was returned those years and glad I was able to help so many people in the community. Well, I'll never forget the experience.
I got to ask you, what happened in 2021? The winds of change blew through? What?
Yes.
Yeah.
As somebody very wise once said, democracy is messy. So in a good sense, there's always a chance for the voters to take a look at.
As there should be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was involved in a 3-way race, which is a little bit unusual for local position. And it was close, but, the residents spoke. And just looking back, I was happy in the position I left the town.
Yeah.
In good position for the future. They had new leadership, and that happens in politics. It happens in all politics across the country.
And it's a good thing, that it does. Yes. We take that for granted, and we better not take it for granted, especially in 2024.
Yeah. The only thing I can say, I was just going to say one thing. With those experiences I had over the 10 years, and so glad to be able to help, that municipality. I've been able to take those experiences, that judgment, those relationships, and just help another town or two in our region try to improve themselves and try to reach the goals that they want to do. I always thought if one municipality does well, or 2 or 3 or several, it helps all others. It just rises the tide, and it brings success all the way. So happy to be doing that now.
Absolutely. And we were, that's our jam here at Sustainable CT, because we constantly are trying to hold towns up that succeed as being examples to all the towns out there. They, well, all right, I can do that. They can do that. I can do that too, or follow their lead. And also the regionality of this, like you said, kind of lifts the tide within the region too. So with towns collaborating and being able to follow one another's lead. Absolutely. Well, but I don't want to leave the election element behind just yet. And the reason is this: we've been working with CT, kind of a long-winded explanation, but I'll get there. CT Data Collaborative, I'll give them a pitch to help us work through our crazy data management system and improve it and that sort of stuff. And one of the things we were talking about was, what do we measure and how do we measure it? And what indeed is a measure of success for us? What kind of data points are we looking at? And the discussion came up about, politically, this is kind of a sensitive issue, but politically, do we help? In other words, if you as a selectman, well, the first selectman, but any involved in local municipal government, if you're associated with Sustainable CT, did that help the community even know that there's an association? Is sustainability important to your local community, and thereby by associating yourself with Sustainable CT, that helps politically, or does it not? A very interesting conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's many sides to that conversation, but overall, I think my participation, my support of Sustainable CT, which was, we can talk about it, how it originated as a grassroots organization made up of all communities, governments, community groups, stakeholders, interested residents. And I think it kind of resonates with the phrase shared values. For me, we'll talk about it, but it immediately resonated with me, the format, the inception of this program and where it could go. It translated easily and well into the town that I lived in and I was serving. And I think it brought optimism, which I think is so important, kind of a buoyed feeling in our community. And I think if it happens, that's the goal for any community. There was a feeling of raising the quality of life among all residents, in a fair and equitable way. Most of the activities and programs that are pursued are either no cost or a low cost, or something that you could get some granting from, through Sustainable CT and their programs, or other sources. Could be private donations. But I think that element is very palatable and it's relevant. The actions, the initiatives that go into all the activities are just very relevant to your particular towns, and the issues that are facing Connecticut are facing our local communities. And
right,
if you can do that in your little neck of the woods, it's your part. You can't solve everything for Connecticut. You can't solve it for the country. But if everybody can do something that they all feel good about and is beneficial for your small neighborhoods, you're doing your part. That's all that can be asked of you. And I think that leaves everybody with a good feeling.
Yeah. There's a sense of what we like to think is a sense of empowerment, of efficacy to these communities. As you say, it can be overwhelming. You can't fix the problems of the state by yourself. You can't fix the nation or the nation's problems or the world's climate issues, but you can do your part in your community, and that all builds up to a real change. And I think that's one of the things that we try to tell, that messaging that we try to put out there. We debate whether or not, during certification time schedule, should we try to bring our certification in line with local election schedules so that local leaders have a chance to run on this as part of their platform? Or do we want to stay completely out of that ball game and, in the background and not get into that deep end of the pool? It's a constant question. I know that not every town embraces Sustainable CT, and we're working on them. We're working on them.
Yeah.
Not every community, not every town really embraces the agenda, but absolutely most do. So go back to how did you get involved with Sustainable CT, and what did Lynn show up with a brochure one day, or what?
So I was serving as the first selectman of Burlington, and I was being made aware that the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, which is an association, municipal association, that just about all towns and cities belong to. It's such valuable. They have a staff that can advise on a number of issues and help the everyday operations for all the municipalities. They came out with a notice that they had a series of established groups that were discussing important topics, in all municipalities, such as land use, financial matters. And this comes out every year. And I noticed there was a new one that it was for sustainability. And I thought that sounded interesting. And I signed up to go to the meeting it was organized by CCM, Connecticut Council of Municipalities, and also Eastern Connecticut State University's Institute for Sustainability. Right. I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought it looked like there was going to be a potential partnership there. And I was just interested. So I went to this think tank discussion group. It was held in Hartford, and the folks that I just mentioned were there. But there were other thought leaders, my peers. Some of my peers were there from other towns, other first selectmen and town managers, and it wasn't a big group, and but it was a good group, and we had a nice discussion. I just felt energized coming out of that. I felt like this was one more group that was discussing relevant and important issues for communities. So I kept on signing up to come to the meetings. I kept on doing that, and it was gaining traction each time we got together. Things that we were talking about became more substantive.
Right.
And I was really impressed with that. Sometimes you just talk and nothing really comes out of things immediately, but there seemed to be something within this group that was trying to grow this discussion and try to achieve this statewide grassroots initiative. And they were going about it the right way. So I stuck around. I've been involved in one way or another for the past 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's been a great journey. Everything that I was seeing and hearing on that first day seems to be the DNA of the organization and the group and the staffing to thoughtfully grow and achieve the establishment of this organization that becomes relevant, so relevant.
Yeah.
To the
Now,
towns.
and your phrase earlier you used the shared values. It almost like you show up in a room, and you said there were other municipal officers there. It's almost as if there was a hunger for this. There was a need for this, some sort of statewide effort to be able to try to pursue some of these things. And that need was certainly shared across different municipalities. And getting those people in one room was like, oh, it's almost a revelation. Oh, yes, we can do this. We can do this. So that
we can do this. Everyone shared. We all got to know each other pretty well. Yeah. And as the discussion grew over time, more and more people sat around the table, and we just talked about what some of the obstacles could be, some of the challenges. It could be, more macro challenges, larger challenges, or just very specific to our local group. So it was a very good think tank. It was very good discussion. And I think we worked out a lot of the ins and outs of achieving success and how to go about that.
Yeah.
There's some trepidation when you're thrown, when you're in this group and it gets larger and larger, you wonder what direction it's going to take. But it was just a wide range of folks that seemed to be able to come together in this.
Well, these were
effort.
people of goodwill and good intention. And very smart too, and experience as yourself. I mean, you're coming with a background with an experience you're bringing to the table. I don't think anybody's in there to throw bombs or to break furniture or to do anything to make things bad. And over the years, certainly the demand that we need to give to climate change, but also energy costs and energy use. And all these things they've not gotten any easier. It's not as if these things go away. That, which kind of leads into my next question, was how you've been on the board of directors for quite some time, and as treasurer, been like fundamental person on that board. Now we're kicking you off, right? Because our charter demands that there's a term limit, and so now we have to show you the door for some period of time. We hope you come back. So this is kind of a testament to you that you've been there helping us for so long. So the question is, how do you think we've changed or evolved in those 6 years? I mean, have there been fundamental changes that you've seen, or do you like the direction we're in? You can be critical here. You could say, well, there's certain things you're concerned about. What's your take on how we've evolved over the last several years?
I hope to, and I will be a supporter, and you can always consider me an ambassador program and around the state. If anybody ever has any questions about it or would like to share some comments or some suggestions, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. It's something I have passion for and think that it has a good success rate so far. But one of the things that I noticed, I was just watching and waiting, is that this group that got together, the blueprint for our 5-year plan, our 10-year plan, was aggressive. I wouldn't say most, some groups that I work with will not try to move too quickly, kind of move at a certain rate and evaluate and then move forward. But I think from the very start, it was important to this group that we felt like we could set a blueprint that was aggressive in terms of our rate of growth. But we had a lot of the details in our pathway and what we were trying to accomplish pretty firm.
Yeah.
So even with some ups and downs, I think early on, and folks can attest to that in our lives, things that we do, if you design something well, no matter what it is in life, your chances of a success of building something or achieving something just rises exponentially because it's just well thought out and you have the right people, the right thoughts, the right discussions right from the get-go. And that was, I felt that we had achieved that threshold. So I was very comfortable in going along with this aggressive path. But along with the moving forward strongly and moving forward effectively, there was also flexibility built into the program.
Yeah.
So if you were looking at the actions and the programs initially in the first year, there was a lot of thought with seeing how those had progressed. And there was a process for evaluating and the willingness to make changes. So to make them more palatable and effective for municipalities and try to overcome the one size fits all mentality. We realized they're just, each town has its own personality, characteristics, size, availability of resources and things like that. So, so I was really happy that was built in. So what I've seen over the last 6 years, and I have served as treasurer, is that the partnerships from the very beginning and have continued are very strong. And we have, and I'm so thankful for this, and we all are, the foundations that step forward and have committed to multiple years of funding to allow us to achieve our goals. And, ever grateful for that. Mm-hmm. I think we're well positioned for the future with the flexibility. There are things we can try to achieve, higher goals, and we're identifying those. And society and our environment, things change. And I think if we just embrace that, I think we're serving our residents, more effectively.
Yeah, and flexibility is key to what we do. I got to say, though, it's not, sometimes it's to a fault. We have this debate, this internal debate, and my wonderful colleague, Jessica Leclerc, says her line is, we're building the plane as we fly it. And I said to her one day, she said that a couple of times, I said, that's not the way you're supposed to do it.
That's right.
It's not a really good thing, In some respects, just organizationally, we've had to be flexible for a lot of reasons. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, being flexible in our work with the towns and providing to the towns what they need. And it's not always the same. It's not a cookie cutter thing.
Yeah.
Hartford is not going to have the same needs and desires and resources, for that matter, as Bolton or Winchester. So we've got to be able to be flexible and supportive in every way in that respect. You're the money guy. You and I want to give a tremendous shout out to Tremaine Foundation and Hampshire and Common Sense Fund and Green Bank. Yeah. These people have just been so supportive and helpful to us. God bless them. We need to diversify. I mean, expanding financial resources would be wonderful. We'd be able to do more stuff in more ways. That's all great. That's all well and good. But we need to diversify our funding too. And I think even,
correct.
And
in life, it's a good idea to diversify.
Well, sure. And, we've had, again, internal debates, lots of discussion about how to go about doing that and the challenges involved. What's your counsel on that? What do you think? I mean, how do we do that? Where do we go in your estimation in the next year?
So this is just my opinion that I try to share with the board. And I think there's some consensus growing around it for some years now, is that to achieve diversity, one of the areas of opportunity, I think, is in the area of corporate funding, corporate sponsorships. Yeah. This has been done. There's a process for that. But just my sense of it, just looking out around me to other organizations, other events that I go to, just paying attention to those things, I think there's even more opportunity for sustainable CT. And my sense of it is that I do pick up on the growing communication between corporations, privately held companies, startup companies, entrepreneurs, that, going back to the idea of values, they want to connect even stronger with their customers. Their customers are purchasing goods and products, but they're learning more and more about their customers. They want to become more aligned with their customers because they feel that that's going to be a successful modeling for them. And they're communicating that, and that intersects with what we're doing at Sustainable CT.
Absolutely.
I think it definitely resonates and it energizes. I just think that they move closer, and I think there's going to be so many more opportunities for this. And if it's done well, which we always strive for, and I think there's a good opportunity to grow that, and
absolutely.
I think that's an area of opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a marketing background in private industry, and, it's kind of a crass, it's a crass industry. There's no doubt about that. But the fact is we're human. We were humans too still. Yeah. But I mean, back when I was working, in these for-profit corporations, straight line marketing, we're still humans. We're still living in the community. We're part of what's going on. We have, and as again, going back to shared values, companies I worked for were always very progressive, even if they were for-profit. We always wanted to try to, and it's too cynical to regard it as greenwashing. I know that happens out there, but we were sincere in trying to, connect ourselves up with the right people, with good people doing good things, because we shared that value, and it also was frankly not bad for business, because you're it's good and good for you. We're all in this together. We're going to make things work, again, on the basis of shared values. And we all have to put food on our table and feed our kids and send them to college and everything else. All that stuff is, pretty human. So, yeah, I hear you. We need to do a whole lot more in that regard. And I think we can. I think there's a lot of fertile ground there to be able to go out and connect with corporations in Connecticut. And
I think everybody's open to that. Yeah. I think that's, it's been trending. We've been watching. Folks have been watching us. And I think at this point, we have a good track record, Sustainable CT. Yeah. And people have seen, and you can see that with the registration of towns that have entered the program, and how far some of the towns and cities have taken the various levels of certification, and how much enthusiasm there is for it. Yeah.
Let's take a break for a moment. We'll come right back. We're talking to Ted Shafer, a wonderful guy. He's still on it. You're officially no longer on our board, like last month or something, right? Last week. I don't know.
My mom used to say, be careful what you wish for. So I was asked to give my comments about how our bylaws, and I strongly suggested term limits. So there you go. You
victim of your success. All right, we'll come right back. We'll return to our program in just a moment. You've been listening to The Impact, a Sustainable CT podcast. Hey, while you're out there tripping the web fantastic, don't forget to join us on Facebook for some fun and interesting stuff. Guaranteed safe for children and pets. Come on, be our friend, won't you? At facebook.com/sustainableCT. And we, like millions of others, have hopped on the Instagram Threads bandwagon at instagram.com/sustainableCT and threads.net at sustainableCT. And yes, of course, we're LinkedIn. Search for Sustainable CT from your LinkedIn page, and you'll find us right there, being all LinkedIn and Media Social. And if you're not yet a subscriber to Actions that Impact, the Sustainable CT newsletter, you could be missing out on some very important information to you, to your organization, and to your town. Accept no substitutes. Do yourself a favor and subscribe today. And you can do that where? At sustainablect.org, of course. Welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Ted Shafer, who is currently, and you're going to have to, Barkhamsted? Is that what you said?
Barkhamsted and Winchester.
Okay. All right. See, I mispronounced. Economic Development Director for these.
Correct.
Yeah. Which prompts the question I didn't ask earlier. How did you end up working for both towns? Was that normal? Is that a normal thing that you?
Well, I was in my career, as I was winding down the first selectman duties, in Burlington. Yeah. I just began to think about the things that energized me, that were successful in my tenure, things I got involved with, and my background and my interests. And one of the areas was economic development. Yeah. I think you can always balance that. I think it's a good idea to balance that with other initiatives. But, for the health and the quality, and there's so many beneficial things that can come out of economic development, if it's thoughtful and done well. It can really benefit communities well beyond the years that you may be in the community.
Sure.
Can help generations. And so with all that being said, I kind of was looking, I put it out there. I was responding to different openings here in the Northwest part of the state. There was an opportunity. There was definitely a general feeling that, let's bring folks in and see, what can be done in this area that had been lagging for a little bit, and or folks wanted to get back to it. And I was just very lucky to respond to those openings, and this is how it all came about. So I'm very thankful for that. It's been a great 2 years.
It's great. We're talking about collaboration and regionalism and getting towns to work together. It kind of is baked in. If you're working for both towns, that's great.
And I feel energized. It's all the things that we were talking about earlier about sustainable CT. I feel very energized, just so interested in working with people and creating, good results. So,
well, in that vein, since you're economic development person, I wanted to ask you about that the region, the Winchester region. What are the major economic challenges you're facing right now? What do you think how do they intersect with sustainability in some way? Do they? I mean, they must in terms of energy use or in some respects.
Yeah, they do. They do. There's definitely overlapping circles of things that are important, but in these challenges, if you just start to look at economic development challenges around the state and locally over the past couple of years, it's been the higher cost of goods and services that's really affected households, governments, community groups, just as a whole. It's been a challenge. Here in the Northwest corner, we are year by year, since I've been here, and I think before I arrived, looking at public transportation. And that, again, that goes to folks' quality of life. And what does that transportation look like? And see, that's where it starts to overlap. What kind of energy is used in public transportation? What kind of possibilities are there? There's been businesses or entities that have job opportunities, but they're having a hard time matching it up with the workforce. So I've been involved with job fairs. That's something that I attended, but these are things that I'm coordinating to try to get folks in front of each other to try to help each of these households that need that kind of opportunity.
Sure.
It's been talked about in the state, the need for more housing. We can call it workforce housing, but it's just making sure that communities are set up to take care of each other.
Yeah, housing is huge, a really big issue all over the state, but it's a big problem. Yeah.
And the other issue is just, it's as we all know, and there is some concern about it. It's the changing economy. What does the future look like with the growth of technology and other things that are happening? Is it going to look like a lot of folks look to the past, with nostalgia and such a warm feeling about, and then they see a lot of the changes that are happening. And that's tough. Change is always tough for everybody. So dealing with that. The other thing that I saw and was hoping to help with, I saw a lot of isolation. And again, this comes with the technological age, social media. In like the yesteryears, you talk to folks that have been in these towns for a long period of time. There was a strong feeling of getting together, a lot of activities and interaction. And these days, it can go in all different directions. And I kind of got a sense, and people would say to me that they feel more isolated. Yeah, and so there's always activities, and that kind of crosses over into sustainability actions. Number one, you can get involved in sustainability actions with others. If you share that enthusiasm and interest and solution solving and all that, there are folks that would like to get together with you in your community to do that. But also it's the effects of the programs. They directly affect others. So you can benefit from that.
Mhm.
And again, that's an overlapping, circle, sense of community, togetherness, and volunteerism. It's just another opportunity to take some of the time you have available and share it with others
Yeah.
or an initiative. So I think the two kind of come together. They're similar and can come right together, hand in hand.
Now,
Those are just
have you found that, because I agree with you, that sense of isolation, it's almost a contradictory notion. We're all connected now, huzzah, when in fact, I think that sense of isolation individually has grown with the internet for a lot of different reasons.
yes.
And I want to ask you, I mean, from an economic development point of view, and I'm assuming you have broadband capacity in your area. Has that helped? Has that helped? We no longer have to commute down to Hartford to get, for a decent job. You could, in theory, have a burgeoning business in Winchester, and if you're connected properly and be able to follow that business model, has that helped at all? Is that a?
It has. It's like some things in our lives. It's a double-edged sword. So you have that dynamic, which is tremendous. You can actually live and work in your town if you prefer to be in a more rural setting, and it has the ability to communicate. This is great. You can have more that you're looking for. But on the other side of if you have the ability to internet shop, that means you're not traveling down to our main streets where our traditional retail is, and enjoying that experience with others, with the shopkeepers. There needs to be a balance there. And I think that could be a solution to it all. Just folks finding a way to balance technological with the face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
And I think we might be able to overcome some of this isolation. And the isolation becomes tough. I mean, we live in a climate that's ever changing. It's been evolving. I'm sure we can talk about that a little bit, but those challenges, we have much more rainier days that maybe we're not leaving our homes or not being outside. Right. And now it's warmer at times and drier. And it's in terms of the recreational and things that we enjoy doing with others, it's definitely changing and evolving. So those are some of the things to look at.
I'm an old guy. And my favorite thing around the holidays was always going downtown, kind of almost not quite the last minute, but going downtown and doing my holiday shopping right there in these little stores and seeing everybody and talking to people and having a ball, and everybody's in a great mood because it's the holidays. And now it's like a ghost town. Everybody's on Amazon. Everybody shops from Amazon. So, talk about
some of the more successful shopkeepers have adopted a really interesting philosophy. They will traditionally sell what they sell, but they'll also invite folks to come in to have an opportunity. It could be several shoppers that can come back together and go through an activity together, whether they're learning a new skill, how to put together, how to cook food better, or, how to build something, and just like a workshop. And this whole workshop philosophy has brought people back together and given them a better sense of socialization. Obviously, they all enjoy doing that particular, and I see more of that happening. And I hope it builds on itself, because then the whole experience of getting out of your house and enjoying your town or surrounding towns, becomes that more enjoyable. And combining things, maybe taking a walk along, if there's some open space or pathways, or biking, and, ending up starting in one town and ending up in another, or just going to different parts of the town and just enjoying that. And the history of our towns, we have a great history of this area, New England. Yeah. And so interesting. So I think there's a lot to offer to try to address isolation. Hopefully.
Until the next, whatever the next technological craziness is that comes along. Now it's AI, and then something else.
I've already begun to read and see things about quantum computing.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually in a generation ahead of AI, even though we haven't quite figured out for the general person what exactly this all means with artificial intelligence. So we have yet another generation of computers that we need to take a look at.
Well, and you alluded to it earlier. What's the biggest challenge you see coming down the pike in terms of climate or sustainability or something that's going to affect your region that, you're most concerned with at this point?
I think the area of climate change, the immediacy of that over my 10 years in town management and being involved currently with the municipalities, things that just have been documented, just are, the heavier rainfall, the warmer temps at times, even the dryness, has affected, it creates strain and deterioration in municipal infrastructure, such as bridges and roads. So there's safety issues there, but there's also a cost issue. You're having to address, if this was something you were looking at maybe 20 years ago, you would say, oh, that bridge is going to last another X amount of years. But with this kind of these changes in weather, it's causing, more rapid deterioration, which needs replacement. You need to address or repairs to get that done. Other areas, we're talking about dryness and deterioration, flooding. I just notice when I just watch local news or just read about local news around the state, flooding is becoming, we're always getting warnings about that and seeing the aftermath. I think that's a really big issue for most municipalities and cities. So,
especially Winchester, given its history.
Yes.
So for folks, Winstead is is still living that legacy.
Yeah. So for those who clue those in on that one, in 1955, it was very famous, the river flood that this town, like a lot of towns, the commerce and the life of the town was built very closely around the riverbanks. Yeah. And with that flooding, and if you see the pictures as we all have over the years, it was devastating.
Yeah. It swept the town away.
Yes.
A large portion of it.
Literally swept it away.
Yeah.
And this was a very thriving town. And at that time, and it was just devastating. And so, that we're seeing, we're revisiting this topic of flooding. Who thought it could come back as an issue, but it's back. And the other thing too is we're on an environmental basis, kind of hard to see at times, but it's the loss of biodiversity that we all can read about. And in the folks that study this in our universities and colleges, and they can share more details of that. I think it should be an area that we think about because it just goes to the general health of our environment. It's where our houses are surrounded by these natural environments. So,
absolutely, and everything's connected. The hip bone's connected to the leg bone. So what happens is if you have an increasing just by a temperature or two, the insects that once remained south of a certain demarcation point now start coming north. They're almost by definition an invasive species because they're really not supposed to be there. They're crowding out others, and all these things are connected like dominoes. It starts affecting the forests and farmland and everything else. It's not getting any prettier. So,
just locally, I live in Burlington, so a great town, just a lot of natural resources and forestry. But what we're talking about, deer ticks.
Yeah.
It becomes a big issue. Like if you're thinking about taking a walk through the woods, just a hike, it's something you have to take a lot of things to be careful of. Yeah. And it could affect your health if you don't address the ticks. And while you're out there, you have a lot of wildlife that's being affected. And it's all the things we enjoy about living in natural settings that's being affected, so a lot more to think about these days.
Well, and even just this year, and I don't want to attach weather to climate. I might make that mistake. I realize these things are very long term, but even it's been a very mild, very warm winter this winter thus far. And you used to be able to count on that hard freeze, maybe a foot of snow by now, to take the dog out and not concern yourself with the ticks. But I can't do that. No, I take him out now. He comes back with 2 or 3, and the bears are active way into the season. They're not really settling down, and they're not quote unquote hibernating as much as they did last year when it's this warm. They're still out looking in garbage cans. They're still out trying to, to find whatever food they can forage. Things that it's almost so it might just be weather. Again, I don't want to mistake it for climate, but it kind of gives you a snapshot of where we're headed. If every winter becomes like this winter and more so, right? This is going to be very freaky down the road. What can we do? Well, as you intimately knowledgeable and involved with sustainable CT, is there something that you think we should do more of or haven't done enough of, or you would like to see us champion more? What do we need to do? Is it climate? Is it or climate change? What should we do?
Yeah, it's interesting. Just thinking about this, there have been active discussions, I know, among the staff, yourself, and also on the board level, folks that have participated. One of the areas that I think about a lot that I think would be helpful, it is very challenging in the example where it's very challenging for a small town, with populations under 10,000.
Yeah.
They very much want to participate. They see a lot of value in the programs, that they think it would be beneficial. They just don't have the number of folks to actually accomplish, all the things that are necessary activities to get certified or just to participate in most of the programs. So what the foundations and Sustainable CT as an organization, we developed the summer internship program, where college students, both undergraduate and graduate, that have a strong interest in this area, come into the regions, into the towns, and assist the committees, the local committees. And I think that's been very successful. And kind of discussed is, could we kind of do this year round?
Right.
And there has been movement towards that. The staff has grown with those that assist with the programming, and that has helped a lot. But I think we could go more and more. I think, it's a whole generation of this college age students that are very interested in getting hands-on and working directly with municipalities. And my experience so far with those folks, good job at selecting those folks, and they've all come forward. It's been an excellent experience. I think everybody's got a lot of out of that during these summer experiences, and hopefully they move on and go on to other organizations that do this type of thing. But so I in my mind, that's one of the big areas that I would like to see further expansion of, focus, attention. I just think it benefits everybody. So we'll see how that goes, but that's kind of my thought on that.
No, that's a good one too, because we've been discussing that, and it's on our wish list. It's one of those things, and Mr. Treasurer,
yes,
it's all about the money. We're trying to figure out ways to have a sustainable program. Funny we should mention that word, to be able to sustain this, not just have it a flash in the pan 1 year, with a piecemeal grant, but to be able to establish a multi-year program, to have that year-round internship or a fellows program of some sort. And I got to tell you, I mentioned her earlier, Jess LeClaire is really the one who has done wonders for this program.
Amazing work in this area.
Yeah, she really husbands this along in a way that I would find entirely overwhelming. So kudos to her. But yeah, I agree with you. It's something we're looking at long and hard and trying to figure out a way to make that happen, because I think it would be beneficial for everybody concerned. Hey, so Lynn, our fearless leader, Lynn Stoddard, tells me that you have a knack for running into famous people. Is that true? Would you drop a name for me?
Yeah, I think the earliest interaction that was just spontaneous, not planned, is I was with my mom and dad. They took me to Washington, D.C. to see the sites. I think my dad had some business meetings. And while I was outside of the Washington Hilton Hotel, just outside in their lobby area outside, the U.S. president at the time was Richard Nixon, our 37th president. He came out from a meeting, Secret Service, and I was under the age of 10 at that time. And he just walked right over. There was a group of people that were in my parents' group, and very engaging. He just was chatting with me about what I do, and so that was really exciting for me.
Did he turn you into a lifelong Republican?
I think I was more interested in the whole thing about public figures.
Absolutely,
they could be approachable. They didn't seem approachable at that time. Yeah, and I just learned that they are. Another interesting one. Somehow I was walking towards and got through the security but I was at the Newport, Rhode Island Jazz Festival, and they were about 10 minutes away from the headliner, and which was Wynton Marsalis.
Okay.
He was a trumpeter from and jazz ambassador.
Yes, absolutely.
From New Orleans, and I got right through his security somehow, and he waved off his security, and he said, "Walk me to the stage. Walk with me to the stage."
Wow.
And I told him that I had gone to college in New Orleans, and I knew all about his family. Very, very amazing family in the jazz music area.
Wow.
And we had a great conversation. And he said something very funny. We were very close to the stage, and he apologized to me that he had to kind of cut short our conversation because 10,000 people had paid to listen to him play music, and he had to do that right then. So
wow.
I forgave him for that. There's been other times, but people in different areas, public figures, sports figures.
Yeah.
I actually met Julius Erving, Dr. J, after he
had okay.
Very tall gentleman, but very nice. Yeah. And Steve Martin, who's one of my all favorite comedians and movie stars. We just bumped into each other, and he was walking. It was in New York City. So.
Well, and now you've met me. So you're
I've added you to the list.
We're out of time now. We see it just zooms right by. We're all out of time.
Okay.
And I really appreciate you doing this. We'll have to do it again because I think there's probably a lot of stuff we haven't covered. But we'll have another opportunity because you're not going to leave us hanging. You're going to be in there doing your bit for us. I'm sure.
I'll be doing that. I'm not going anywhere. You got me for the long haul.
Okay.
So,
right. Thank you so much, Ted. I really appreciate your.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to the listeners. I appreciate it.
We hope you've enjoyed today's edition of The Impact, a Sustainable CT podcast. As always, this program is recorded, produced, and copyrighted, by Sustainable CT. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsor, the Common Sense Fund. Thanks again to Ted Shafer for joining us and for his steadfast service and support to Sustainable CT. And thanks to everyone for taking local actions that have a statewide impact.